Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Each week, our hosts will be interviewing local, regional, and national business leaders to give you an inside peek into how they lead their business to success in the ever-competitive business climate.
Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee with Inside the Firm. Today I have a guest from all the way across the world, the other side of the planet, Codi Singer. He is the founder of Singer Architecture. He started his career working in manufacturing for a panelized housing company, but after realizing that the job wasn't what he had been sold on, he left and on a whim started his own business with no business plan, no marketing plan, and most notably, no clients. Codi, welcome to the show.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So why don't you kind of kick us off with starting telling us a little bit about your experience coming out of architecture school, going into that panelized company, and then maybe where your entrepreneurial spirit comes from.
So I finished up studying, as we all do, and got a job doing shop drawings for a panelized housing company, and had a great time there. Spent about 4 years or so doing that, kind of doing everything from small residential to a lot of big townhouse developments with that panelized product. And then after that, I kind of decided that I really wanted to move into a true architectural field. So I left and went to another job in the interview, I was told I was going to be this great designer and we were going to do all this awesome stuff and yada, yada, yada. And so I pack up my things and I leave and I go to this job, and then wasn't very long I was there and I realized, hang on a minute, I'm not doing anything I was being sold on. And I was being asked to make a lot of shortcuts and do stuff I just wasn't comfortable doing. So I thought, before this destroys my soul, I got to get out. So I handed in my notice and I walked out the gate and I thought, great, I don't have to do that anymore, but what am I going to do to pay the bills? Because I've got nothing planned. So on a whim, as you kind of alluded to, I just started a business, and I thought, what can I do? I can draw houses. Okay, let's do that. So I started a business, and as you kind of said, I had no business plan, no marketing, no clients, but I thought, it'll either go wrong or it'll go right. Like, that's the only thing it's going to do. And luckily it worked out. I picked up a few people that I'd worked with previously in other jobs, and then a developer come along and said, I've got 2 townhouses, can you do them? And I did them. I undercut myself massively, as you'll do when you start out, I think. And then it just kind of went from there. And in the first couple of years, I was pretty bad at pricing, and I was pretty bad at keeping track of my time. And I just kind of, as long as I invoiced every, month or so and people paid me, I thought, this is going great. But kind of now I look back on that and I think, gosh, the amount of time I spent doing stuff and not getting paid for is shocking to think about.
How does it work you're in New Zealand, for everybody who can't tell from his wonderful accent, how does it work for licensure and everything? Or is it kind of like in the States where you can do residential and you don't have to be licensed? Do you have that hurdle to deal with at all?
No, we have to be licensed to do everything here. So we have to be a licensed building practitioner. And you either are a licensed building practitioner in design, or you might be a licensed building practitioner in carpentry, and they're all different sections that you can work within. So when I started out, I wasn't a licensed building practitioner, but I had a really good relationship with another designer, and he was older. He would be in his 60s or 70s, and I said, will you supervise my work to help me get the amount of work I need so that I can get licensed? And we came to an arrangement, and that's completely legal to do that. Mm-hmm. So he would supervise my work, give anything that he wasn't happy with, I'd fix it, and then he would sign my work off. And now I'm licensed. I've been licensed for a couple of years now.
Where did you get your entrepreneurial you know, a lot of people they get really, the only time they ever start a business is if they maybe push comes to shove, or some people just grow up and they've wanted to do it forever, or it's a family tradition that you start different businesses or you inherit one. Where are you to land on that spectrum? Was it a push to shove sort of thing?
It was a little bit of that, because obviously I had no option. I could have gone and got a job. I'm sure, you get a job. I could have got a job, but I just thought, why not? Young, no family, no mortgage. If it goes really bad and I end up living in my parents' basement type deal, then so be it. But if it goes great, it's fine. But it was also a little bit of I always wanted to do stuff my own way, and I didn't really like being told how to do things and not do them properly. I really don't like doing stuff half as good as it should be just to get something finished quick. And even today, I'm still like that, and explain to my clients that it's like that. We either do things the right way or we don't do them at all, and that's it.
How did you manage to? What do you do now that righted the wrongs of the past? And you mentioned some of them before, and one of them was time management and tracking the time, invoicing, just basic business stuff. And I actually don't fault people for knowing how to do that right away. But how have you corrected that since then?
A lot of learning. So I spent a lot of my own time watching YouTube videos or reading books or a blog or listening to podcasts such as your guys' one. And those little bits and pieces, and then I'd, dig through the internet to find the tool I needed to make my job easier. Because I don't want to be, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a business manager or anything like, well, I suppose I kind of am in a way, but that's not my field of expertise. So I definitely use technology wherever I can to make that easy for myself. So I don't want to be writing on a piece of paper every 15 minutes what I was doing, so I'll use a piece of software to do it. I don't want to be writing out invoices, so I'll use a piece of software to do it. And it's just about, there's only me, so I had to make everything I was doing as efficient as I could, so I could still draw a house and make a living, because nobody makes a living off tracking their own time and writing an invoice.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What are some of those pieces of software that you like?
So I use the couple that I really can't do without is Toggle for timing myself. It's so easy. Click it on, click it off, and it just tracks everything and produces a report. And then I can use that for whatever I want. And then other bits pieces like Google Drive and just the whole kind of Google suite of tools really to help you. And then what was it? I do use a piece of accounting software. I have an accountant to do some of my stuff because I'm not an expert in tax law and all that kind of jazz. But yeah, those are probably the main ones that really help me be as efficient as I can, along with obviously a CAD package.
Yeah. Going from where you started with the panelized company, you didn't like it, and started doing your own thing, and then now I understand you've been pulled back into that. So is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. So about 3 years ago, their draftsman that was doing what I was doing was going on a holiday, and they said, "Oh, look, can you come back?" Because I had a really good relationship with them when I left, and would help them out from time to time. So they said, "Could you come back and do a couple of bits and pieces while he's on holiday?" And I said, "Yeah, no problem at all." So I did that, and then they kind of said, "Could you stay on a little bit longer and help us with kind of promoting the product to other architectural firms?" So I said, "Oh yeah, I suppose I could do that as well." So I'm kind of sitting in that architectural rep consultant, I don't really know what you call it, but I get to, on a day-to-day basis, I get to interact with a ton of other firms and educate them on that product and that system, and I get to help them in their business. I help them design and detail using the product, which has been a really cool thing to do, because then I get to have a look inside tons of other firms and how they operate and how they draw and how they detail and all their little systems, which is great to just keep in the memory bank of, oh yeah, that's right, that's how that massive firm here in New Zealand does this. without kind of ripping them off exactly.
Yeah. No, totally. We all
Yeah.
end up, no matter what, there's going to be some bleeding in, between companies and what you do and figure out and all that. What is it like then now running a full-time practice while doing this kind of role? How do you manage all of that together? Is it overwhelming?
Sometimes, because I'm very bad at saying no. I have that incessant need, I feel like, to help everyone. So if someone says, oh, I need to, I really want to move a staircase, or I really want to do that, yeah, sure, I can do that. And then I have to think, no, you can't, because you've got so much other work you can't take on anymore at the moment. But it's hard. It's definitely hard, and I have to manage my own time very well. So I'm definitely an early riser, so I'll get up at 5 in the morning and I'll work until whatever time we have to leave and go to the office, come home, and I'll work again until whatever time I decide that, you need to go to sleep so you can get up at 5 o'clock the next day. But yeah, it's kind of difficult, but I probably wouldn't have it any other way at the moment. I definitely don't want to be doing that for the rest of my life, that's for sure.
Yeah. When you got on camera here, and nobody can see us, but also I'll describe it. Cody looks a lot like me in the sense that we look very young. I still get people, I'm 37, and people, every once in a while somebody will, somehow an age comment will come up, and I'll be like, I'll just ask them flat out. Usually they're a stranger. I'm like, what do you think? How old do you think I am? And they will always guess under 30. So we've had the same problem you've had, and so I really like that you brought this point up. Kind of when we start talking about discussions or topics to bring up, and that is how do you leverage yourself to be taken seriously and respected while being young and obviously looking as young as we do.
It's been a challenge, and I've had a couple of projects where it's been a real challenge, because often, especially if it's just myself, and I find if it's the wrong clients and the wrong project, it's really obvious that they won't take you seriously. They feel like, why is this 18-year-old in charge of my house? And I'm definitely not 18, but
yeah, I was gonna say, I was gonna ask you, okay, what are you? How old are you then?
I'm 28.
Okay.
Moment.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's hard, and I had a couple of projects when I first started out that went bad. Not as in they were badly drawn or anything, but the relationships broke down. And the reason is exactly that. The project manager wanted XYZ, and what had to be delivered, what had to be structurally sound and what was passed part of the building code was a whole nother issue. But because he didn't really trust me based on kind of their age and experience, we clashed, and that really broke down. And ever since that project, I've really tried to weed out that sort of client when they come in. You get a bit of a feel for them, the way they kind of interact with you or the way they talk. And if it's that, I'll just be quite clear and say, I don't think we're going to be a good fit, or we can't accommodate your needs. So we get past that project off. But I've got another couple of clients, and I've got one building company I work with on architectural work that are great, roughly the same age, and they are awesome to deal with. They have no issues around age. And I've got some other people that are clients that are probably in their 70s, and they have no issues with age either. They'll put full trust in you because they believe you're the expert, and it doesn't matter what age you are.
Yeah, I think some people. Yeah, so has anybody flat out blatantly said, made a comment about your age or anything like that? Oh, really?
Yep. So that one project that went bad with the project manager, he flat out said, basically, you're too young to know what you're talking about. You need to just draw what I tell you. Yeah, and that was one of those moments I thought, okay, we need to get out of this project.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. For sure. For everybody out there listening too, I think one thing that I have found to be a positive thing about looking young or being in, starting a firm as young as you are, and we did too at about 25, is that some people actually really want it. some people want a fresh idea because you got to think about the opposite side of the spectrum. So, and this is just me being flat, honest and real about it, is that some people look at the older fellas or gals and they say, like, I'm tired of that, cranky architect, engineer, whatever, contractor, doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So I like to always, to reinforce that idea that, like, it goes both ways. This isn't just a one-sided sort of thing. I'm fascinated.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that you're in New Zealand, and I've never been there. I want to go one day. What is the building industry like there right now, considering COVID, and how have you guys been dealing with all of that?
Well, I mean, as a country, we seem to have dealt with it fairly well. We have, no cases at all currently in the country that are in the community. We have, what cases we do have are managed isolation. So in that regard, we are completely, so we had a couple months ago, we had a full countrywide lockdown. No one kind of left their house, none of that, everything. And that went on for about 6 weeks. Then we come out of it a little bit. And then we had, about a month or so ago, we had basically our Prime Minister said that we could open up again. And we're completely back to normal now. Me personally, I didn't see any dip in work. I had one project that cancelled on me, and that was going to be a significant project. So that was a bit of a downturn, a bit of a issue. But the lady who was the client, she said, she's lost her job and she can't afford to do it. And I said, you know what, that's absolutely fine. I understand. I'm not gonna make you do it, of course.
Right. Yeah.
And she said, just invoice me for the time that we've spent on it. And I said, you know what, I haven't spent enough time to really invoice you. So just take it as a win. Use whatever money we would have spent on it to make sure you get yourself set up. So that project, it might come back on stream in a couple of years' time, but who knows? But other than that, the thing I have noticed is a big uptake in renovation work. Mm-hmm. People aren't so keen on doing the new build. They'll renovate, and I've got more renovation work now than I have ever had on. And I used to hate renovation work, but a couple of years ago I thought, I should get into that, and I'm glad I did now.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you're a listener of the podcast, so as many tentacles as you can have out, even if you're one person shop. Super helpful. Yep. But talk a little bit more beyond COVID about the building industry in New Zealand. Positives, negatives, things that you'd like to see. Maybe somebody over here in the States or anywhere else. We have listeners all over the world. They could take some positive things that you guys are doing that you think you guys are doing well, and maybe learn from some of the things you guys are doing negatively.
Yeah, our building industry in New Zealand is about 30, 40, 50 years behind where it should be probably. We have a good group of people in New Zealand that are very passionate about seeing our building code improve and become what it should be. But the wheels of change move very slowly. So often you'll find that this group of, designers, architects, builders, contractors, engineers, they basically just kind of take it in their own hands and they'll design a better building and they'll build that building. Whether it be a high performance building or a passive house or whatever it is, they'll just do that because that's what should be done. But as our minimum code, which a lot of the group home builders I guess are building to, is very poor quality buildings. They're thermal bridges everywhere. It's like minimum insulation requirements, and we don't have a necessarily a very cold climate. Where I live, we don't even get snow at all. We have to drive half the length of the country if we want to go and see snow. But we do have a heating climate. We've got to heat our buildings more than we have to cool them. Mm-hmm. It would be very uncommon to find a building in New Zealand with like serious air conditioning in them. But most people underheat their buildings. They don't heat them enough, so you end up with high humidity inside the buildings, and you end up with cold climates inside the buildings, and yeah, it's, you know, we have a couple of things that I would really love to see improved. And our Ministry of Building and Innovation has just released a statement saying they are looking to improve the building code over, I can't even remember, it was like next 5 or 10 years, and hopefully it improves where it's a decent standard, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't want to hold my breath on it.
I know, I'll only speak for myself here, but as an American, I'm going, wow, it sounds a little bit more loosely regulated. So I like that. I like hearing that, because we are so regulated, especially in Boulder County, to the point where we are forced to put solar panels on our house. We are forced to actually put a sprinkler system in the house. So that's kind of, I mean, and so it kind of begs the question to you then is, why aren't people doing it voluntarily? Why aren't they, like, are there builders actually going above and beyond, and then can they charge a premium for that product or not?
Yeah, there are. So there's the one building firm I work with. They often build houses that are, you know, not cheap and are above code. But I think here in New Zealand we also have a housing shortage. So we have Kiwi Build and all these kind of schemes that are building houses for the masses, and they have to be built for a price, like X number of dollars. They cannot be sold for any more than that. So the developer wants to build for Y number of dollars so he can make a profit, which is fair enough. But then it just doesn't lend itself very well to building above the code. And also, I think, yeah, you compete with these group home builders that are building for absolute bottom dollar. And, you know, it's hard to try to get the New Zealand mindset to think, I would rather have good insulation and thermally broken windows than I would rather have a granite countertop. Which is a hard thing. They, you know, if the New Zealand mindset can't see it and it can't, like, touch it, they're not really interested in it. So, yeah, it's hard in that regard.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because a free market advocate would say, and I'm one of them, would say, well, you know, that you could just let the market decide. And you could build a crappy house to the minimums that you're talking about, or you could build a premium house, and maybe, you know, the market should decide if the crappy house is better, but based on just profit and you know, which one's in more demand. It's interesting. So is there local initiatives then that people are trying to do, or do you think it's coming from the federal level? And what I mean federal, just, you know, the highest level of your government. I don't know how it's structured there exactly, to try to make these codes more. Are they just behind? Like, are they 2006 IECC or something like that? Is that what it is?
Yeah. We have a national building code that is across our entire country, and then when you submit for your building consent, it goes to your local council, which is in theory working off the same building code. So yes, our building code is prescribed on a government level, and yeah, it's 20, 30-ish years too old, possibly more. It's probably 40, 50 years too old to where it should be today. So yeah, hopefully that will change. Yeah,
interesting.
Yep.
Well, cool, man. I always ask everybody this question. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time, if you go back when Codi first started the project, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
I would probably say to myself to just do it sooner. I wouldn't have waited as long as I did to go out on my own. Even though I had no plan when I did it, I would still do it again, and I would just do it sooner. Because I'd be a little bit further down the road now, and you know, you can't really predict the future as such. So yeah, just give it a shot. Jump in the deep end and learn to swim while you sink.
I love it. If people are planning on moving to New Zealand, or they're in New Zealand, they're listening to this, how do they find you? How do they follow you? Specifically your company.
You can go to Facebook. We've actually just changed the company name. So if you go to Facebook or Instagram and you search for 5am Design Studio, you'll find me. and I haven't finished a website as of yet, even though I should have. But yeah, that'll be around at some point.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on to the show today, Cody. It was a pleasure talking to you all the way across the other side of the world.
Not a problem. Thanks very much.
That was fun, buddy. I think there's one episode in front of you, and so you won't be this Monday. I think you'll be the Monday after that. And then I will try to. We've LinkedIn, right? That's how we connected. Yeah, perfect. Great. Okay, I will tag you on LinkedIn. You'll see it. So if you would share the episode wherever you want, that'd be cool.
Will do, definitely.
Okay, have a good one, buddy. Great having you on.
All right, cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.